Check it out, I got a new hat that doesn't look straight in my head yet. Should shave today. What was I thinking? People ask me, because I didn't have a beard in high school, why did I grow the beard? Laziness. The answer is laziness, because you have to shave less. But then you get this scruffy looking piece of crap. So, how's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing fantastic this fine evening. I know I am. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. We'll hold it here. Phone stream. Woo! Computer at my office. Looks like it finally crapped the bed. Not wholly, but I got it in for some maintenance, so we'll see what we could do with that. But until then, if I get some downtime here and there when I'm not at home, stream via the phone. So here I am today, and I'm like totally freaking out, totally, because, democracy is in trouble. Oh my God. Like, democracy, the will of the people, like, wow, it's totally in trouble. So we'll talk about it some tonight, but apologies to my Twitch Rumble X audience. I do feel bad. If I was able to stream via my phone to all of those platforms, I would. And I'm considering alternating streaming to Twitch and to YouTube when I do my live stuff. Now, I'll be honest, my audience is bigger on YouTube than Twitch. That's ultimately which leads to the decision most of the time stream to YouTube instead of Twitch when I'm doing mobile. But, Twitch was OG audience. I used to have a bigger audience on Twitch. I don't think either YouTube or Twitch, the companies themselves, really like me or push me in the algo or anything like that. So a lot of that's my fault. I don't even, I have people all the time that'll message me little hints on how to manipulate the algorithm a little more. Like, here's the thing. I didn't even think of this. So I pay for X so I could, have longer posts and put longer videos up and all of that good stuff. And so I'll type out, a big, long post. And someone messaged me and was like, hey, man, you should make your big, long post into, a thread of several posts so it's easier to read. More people will read it. Oh, there was an Andrew debate tonight. I was unaware. Hope that went well. So yeah, little things like that I never think of. That person also recommended I start a Substack, which I'll consider. If I think that I'll have time to write at least one article a week, maybe I would start a Substack. For two reasons. Sparky's on Connor's channel talking right now. Oh, thanks. You like my bad mood club? My wife bought me this. Yeah, well, if you're not watching me, watch Connor and Sparky. That'll be good. Chin up. So you can see the gray hairs. So, or is it because I'm so worried about democracy? Democracy! No! Democracy! So I watched a Wick panel today that had Cenk Uygur, Destiny, Brianna Wu, and Joe Walsh, former representative, on, and it was entertaining. They were talking about whether or not Biden should resign. So we'll talk about that a little and about democracy. It's funny because I'm in this weird spot. I feel very similar to when COVID first occurred. And I was on March and April and May of 2020. And it felt like I was doing the same show every day. It felt like I was in some Twilight Zone where I'm telling people every day, no, not 15 days to slow the spread. Can't you see what's about to happen? Can't you see what's going on? And obviously there were members of my audience that agreed with me, but there were a lot in my audience that disagreed with me. And there were a lot of Trump supporters that said that I was bailing on Trump. And certainly even more important than that was a lot of the politicians, even in Pennsylvania. Of course, I understand the Democrat politicians, they wanted to sabotage the country, I get it. But the Republicans that were 15 days to slow the spread. It was like I was in the Twilight Zone. It's how I feel now. It's not quite as bad, but somewhat. So I warned everyone the day after the debate. If you go to the commentary after the debate immediately, and hopefully this week sometime we'll go back and we'll watch my initial 15-minute opening statement on the commentary after the debate. What did I say was the biggest takeaway from the debate? I begged people to have this takeaway. It was the most important thing. What the Biden debate performance showed us was that 95% of the Democrat political class, media class, pundit class, streamer class lied to you. They gaslit you. They lied, and they lied blatantly. And I was like, remember, that's going to be the important thing going forward as they scream about whatever the next issue is. Democracy's on the ballot. Climate change is about to wipe us all out. The border's totally secure. It's the best economy ever. They're willing to lie to you about Biden's cognitive decline. It was obvious. It was obvious to anyone watching. It was bad in 2020, and it was getting progressively worse, to the point where there was story after story that showed, like, look, the press has basically been fed questions. Biden's using a teleprompter for, like, fundraisers. No. It's all conspiracy theories. Republicans pounce. Remember, that was what they said about everything. Money in the Bank's been incredible. Oh, pay-per-view tonight? Well, so that continues to be the takeaway. And so it's looking increasingly likely, in my estimation, that Biden will not be the nominee. Now, I'm not going to say that I told you so. I've always said that there was a reasonable chance that Biden wouldn't be the nominee. And I was laughed at on stream after stream when I would bring this up. Granted, I'd been saying the most likely replacements were Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris might be who they end up going with because they've waited too long. I feel like had they convinced Biden not to run in 2024, they would have went in a different direction. But because I think they would have already cut ties with Biden if they had any faith in Kamala. But Kamala's just incredibly unpopular. And so I think they hesitate to pull the trigger on that. Of course, I was laughed out of the room by all these Democrats that I debate. It could never happen, please, blah, blah, blah. Biden's sharp as a tack. Okay. I think it's looking increasing. Of course he has a reason to drop out. I don't understand this argument. He has a reason to drop out. Let me ask you this question, John Jacob. Do you think Biden's committed crimes? Do you think that the intel agencies have evidence that the Biden family's committed crimes? Do you think there are scandals in the Biden family? What do you think, John Jacob? Do you think that exists? What do you think? Because if that exists, then he has an incentive to drop out. Because he will be told in no uncertain terms, we're gonna let the press start covering this. All of a sudden, the press will take an interest in the spy master of China. All of a sudden, they'll take an interest in the firing of Victor Shokin. All of a sudden, they'll take an interest in Biden not recognizing his granddaughter, or maybe Ashley Biden's diary. When you've been in Washington as long as he has, and there's as many skeletons in the closet, you're ultimately going to do what they tell you to do, or you'll suffer the consequences. If the establishment behind Joe Biden wants Joe Biden to quit, he'll quit. Now, if it's 50-50, maybe not. Well, no one's saying he'll be investigated. I doubt they'd bring up the diary too. But there's enough dirt. You could already see how the press, when they turn on him, I saw an article today, it was like, did you know many of the people that were the biggest donors ended up getting invites to the White House? Really? Pay for play? Really? No. Press is reporting that. Interesting. Press came out today and reported radio host saying, actually, Biden's team sent us the questions we were allowed to ask him. That same report wouldn't have happened 2 weeks ago. If they think that it is worth it to remove Joe Biden, then they'll do it. Now, maybe they think we could win the election anyways. Maybe they think we got no shot to win the election, so there's no need to get rid of Biden. Maybe they're up in the air. It's indifferent to them. But the actual truth and like doing what's best for the country won't factor in. It won't factor in at all. They don't care. They don't care at all. So, interesting. But I would say at this point, I would go with 60% chance. I said 50% before. I think there's a 60% chance now that they get rid of Biden. Certainly, if they had a more stable option, they would do so. I just don't know. I don't think there's a good answer For me, if I'm them, and I know people, I've argued about this person for a long time, but I'm just going to be honest. I think that someone who's eventually going to be a candidate for Democrats for president and probably stands a good chance to win is Pete Buttigieg. I think Pete does check a lot of the progressive boxes that they're looking for. And regardless of what some people will say, Pete is a very persuasive speaker. And I think he's younger and he will basically is spoken well enough that I think he will be trustworthy to sort of the corporatist Dems, but also will be palatable to younger Democrats who think he'll be a slightly more progressive. Uh, yeah, so I had been saying for a long time, though, that there was a solid chance that Biden would be removed. I think that's likely. Now, Andrew Wilson thinks that it's not going to happen. He thinks the chance of that happening is very low. If I'm honest, and this is just a gut feeling, and it has to do with the Wick panel I watched today, I think that almost anyone's a better option than Biden from the perspective of beating Trump. I think Biden's a very weak candidate. I think that even though I'm still predicting, even with Biden, there'll be a 90% chance that Biden wins, I think that chance increases even higher than that with pretty much any other candidate. Similarly, I think if Trump's not the nominee and you have someone like DeSantis, I think that you would see, I still think there's going to be all sorts of shenanigans that would occur, but I do think that the chances of any Republican, well, I don't want to say any, but a lot of Republicans would have probably been polling better right now than Trump. Because I think there's an awful lot of Democrats that would be willing to pull the trigger on a Republican that they thought wasn't an insane a-hole over Biden, who they think probably correctly has dementia or signs of dementia. But that's just my guess. And who knows, though? When it comes to forecasting things like that, it's difficult to predict. It's such a crapshoot. As far as I know, there has never been a situation this late into an incumbent's presidency where they're unwilling to drop out, where they eventually do decide they were going to drop out. I'd be interested, maybe someone knows this. When is the earliest states where you could send in mail-in ballots? Like, when is that? August? But at some point, I believe it's different state to state. And at some point, there'll be states that you can start sending in ballots. So it becomes interesting. At that point, I think you're kind of locked in, I would guess. I don't know the legal... my understanding is even if someone would pass away, like say Trump or Biden would pass away and it's too late to change the ballots, you could still vote for that person, and then obviously their VP would end up being president-elect, etc. September? Okay. So anyways, this panel that I was watching, it was interesting because Destiny was on the side of he thinks Biden's the best choice still, and Brianna, Joe Walsh, and Cenk all think that they should move in a different direction, though only Cenk, I think, said who he would like to see, who is Alan Bashir, who is governor, I believe, of Kentucky. I don't know much about. But also suggested Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, and Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. And the theory being, a lot of times, the governors in these swing states pretty much assure that party will win that state. So in a swing state, I should look up Ruby the chair. Yeah, I'll pass on looking up people recommended by someone from Piggy Porn. Thanks you, though. Appreciate the recommendation. So it was interesting, though. But the big takeaway from that is there's very little concern with like how well Joe Biden can govern today. It's all about who could win. And the interesting part is I think I've correctly nailed these people, which is as much as they project onto people that they are in a cult liking Trump, and that's certainly true. There are people that no matter what Trump would ever do, will always have his back. I don't think that's the bulk of Trump supporters. It's certainly not me. I've criticized Trump many times. He was not my first choice. Just saying. But the truth is that most of them are just never Trump. And I've said this before. Like, for example, Brianna Wu, who's on that panel. When I was on a panel with Brianna and Destiny previously, I started talking about the disparity in the FBI's treatment of Donald Trump versus other people. So, for example, when it comes to mishandling of classified documents, the handling of Hillary Clinton's team versus Donald Trump's team. And we had a clear case of obstruction with Hillary's team where they literally knowingly deleted subpoenaed evidence, which they've never recovered fully, to my knowledge. That's as clear cut as that is as clear case of obstruction as you'll ever get. And yet they didn't charge it. Instead, they gave immunity, or they gave, and so, I've started talking about that. And Brianna did this thing that like 50% of Democrats that I debate do. When they can't keep up on the facts, they'll just say, yeah, fine. Then I guess they should have charged Hillary as well. To which my comment's always like, okay, they didn't. So again, if my criticism isn't with Hillary, it's not with Trump, it's not with Biden, it's with the FBI. That's my criticism. And I'm like, let me show you why. This is what they did with Trump. This is what they did with Hillary. If your response is, yeah, they should have charged Hillary, you're making my argument. Right, they didn't. Now, it's not that she believed that they should have charged Hillary. She just said that to try to sound reasonable to get out of the argument. Oh, it's okay that they charged Trump. Sure, I guess they should have charged Hillary as well. No big deal. Done. Moving on. And that's not going to work to anyone who's paying attention, right? I kind of look like him. Oh, he must be a handsome man. So what I said, though, is the truth is almost every Democrat would sacrifice Hillary Clinton. They'd sacrifice Joe Biden. They'd sacrifice Kamala Harris. Any of them. They don't care. They literally have thousands of potential stand-ins for Democrat president. They don't care. If it was we take out the guy we want taken out and you take out one of ours, they'll take it every time. Because they have hundreds. But they want Trump. They want his head on a pike. So they'll say, yeah. And they believe it. They would. They wouldn't care if push came to shove. Sure, throw Bill Clinton in prison for the rest of his life. I don't care. As long as Trump goes. That's how they feel. Because as much as they say that Trump people are in a cult, they're in a cult. And that's, if you watch that panel, that's what came across. All that matters is beating Joe Biden, or beating Donald Trump. Whatever we could do to beat Trump, that's all that matters. Why? Because democracy. He engaged in a coup. He almost overthrew this country. He didn't accept the results of an election. Because he pushed for alternate electors, because he thought that there were legal challenges to the election. That's it. The same people that gaslit you about about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. No, he's fine. I don't see any signs of it. Cheap fakes. Good, Robert Whaley. Cheap fakes. I don't see signs of his decline. You're nuts to think he would ever have to be replaced. Those people that just lied to you. And listen, I know I put a tweet out that was like 95% of Democrats. Let me differentiate. That's not true. In fact, the number's nowhere close to 95% of Democrats that knew about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. But that's because the bulk of Democrats are people like my neighbors down the street a little. My immediate neighbors are all Republicans as far as I know. Good people, happen to vote Democrat. They're not watching every Joe Biden press conference. They don't really follow much. They might read the newspaper here and there. They watch the Colbert Report. Those people reasonably could have thought, Joe Biden, a gaffe here and there. He's an old man. I get that. That's completely reasonable. Most people have more of a life than me, and they're not following up on this stuff as much as me, and I totally get that. I don't begrudge them at all. At all. That's fine. I'm not saying they all knew. I think many of them would have suspected it and didn't want to inquire any further, but I'm not saying they knew. But everyone I interact with, to my level, So anyone who's a politics streamer either knew or should have known. And certainly the people like Destiny and Wick and those sorts of people, everyone that was on that panel, they have seen enough to know. They knew that Biden had cognitive decline. They knew it. And they just bullshitted you. They didn't talk about it. They ignored it. They gaslit people and said it wasn't that bad. Excuse me. They knew. And as you go up the rank, the Democratic media people, the Democratic politicians, the people in Biden administration, the Vice President Kamala Harris, Biden's family, they all knew even more. They knew. And they lied and they gaslit people and said, oh my goodness, how dare Republicans accuse? That's what they did. Whoopsie, they lied, they gaslit. But anyways, trust them, Donald Trump's a unique threat to democracy. Destiny said, how come the media is spending so much time on this and not the immunity court case? That's a real threat. Well, it's not. It's not a real threat. Yes, I understand that someone who is a lawyer that wants to look through it could say, I suspect that this means that Trump could assassinate his opponent. Billion things to say about that. One, I suspect not. There are credible lawyers, constitutional scholars on the other side that are saying, no, it doesn't say that. My reading of it shows that there's core functions of the presidency, which you have absolute immunity. There are non-official acts, which you have no immunity. And then there are official acts that fall in between there, which will basically be decided on a case-by-case basis, but you have presumptive immunity. If a president would try to assassinate his political opponent, it would clearly fall in the grounds of not a core duty, which means that it would be investigated. Even if you could argue that somehow this would lead to potentially having some form of immunity, there would be an impeachment. Even in this bifurcated world, if you assassinated your opponent, certainly there would be enough for impeachment. There would be enough to pass an amendment to hold some sort of account there. And there would be enough to hold accountable the people underneath that carried out these acts. If you say, no, but Trump could pardon those people, he could already have done that. The president could have already pardoned for those sorts of acts. The truth is, there was always presumptive immunity for presidents, and the Democrats decided that they were going to use lawfare as one of their only hopes, because this time around, just gaslighting and lying to the American people didn't seem to be doing the trick, so they needed to do more. So this time they decided they would go with lawfare, and you had district attorneys that ran on their record of how good they could get Trump and talked about the promise of getting Trump, etc., etc., and there's been ridiculous court case after ridiculous court case. And it's evident when you see any of these people speak. You know, Destiny was like, they asked Destiny, what do you think Trump or Biden needs to do to improve his message? Oh, instead of talking about facts about the economy, he should say things like this. My economy is better than Trump, who slept with a porn star and has 34 felonies. Right. That's been their strategy all along. They know most people are low information voters, and they're not going to look into how politically absurd most of these cases against Trump are and the blatant double standard, but they get that talking point of felon, 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 felon. And that's what they wanted to do. Now, they expected their media to parrot that, just like they expected their media to parrot Russia collusion. Trump's working with Russia, just like they expected their media to parrot 51 former intels say, no, the laptop was not real. That's their expectation. That's what they... And I keep hearing them talk about how much better Joe Biden's record is. How come every time I debate one of them, I crush them then? Go watch my debate with Destiny 2 years ago on Biden's record versus Trump. Go watch my debate with economist Noah Smith. Go watch my debate with Alex Kirsch. Purely on the record of Biden versus Trump. You see, the record of Biden looks good if you look at the official numbers and you don't exist in the real world. You've been told for 4 years the border's secure, for example. Of course, it's garbage. Now you're being told how it's the greatest economy. It's fantastic. But that's weird. Everyone buying groceries knows it's bullshit. You have every right to vote for Biden. May you get what you want. That's fine. I don't care. But that's the truth. None of these people care about what's better for the country. They're just gaslighting people about democracy now. That's it. That's all it is. Democracy's under attack. Go back and listen to the rhetoric in 2020 about how Trump was a threat to or 2016 and 2020. Trump's a threat to democracy. He's going to cause World War III. He's going to lock up people of color. He's going to ban being gay. Same shit. By the way, then they'll talk about how fear-mongering. I remember doing a whole write-up on this in 2016. The media said the RNC is dark. Oh my God, the messaging out of the RNC, a dark vision for the country. And then the Democrats, the DNC's like, Trump's literally Hitler. And they're like, oh, very inspiring message. Climate change is going to kill us all. Very inspiring message there from the Democrats. It's funny watching, everyone on Wick's panel, including Wick himself, basically plead, please, will the media stop talking about Biden's cognitive decline? We have to win. The media isn't talking about Biden's cognitive decline because all of a sudden they've turned a leaf and they've been duped. And now they're angry that they were duped by the Biden administration and they realize, oh, we were lied to. And as real journalists, we're going to start reporting. That's not what's going on. They think that Biden impedes their goal. Their goal is stopping Donald Trump. And you can see it all over the place. There was a CNN article the other day that said one of the reasons that, even though there were signs of Biden's cognitive decline, that most reporters weren't reporting on it was because it was a Republican talking point. That's interesting. In other words, the media didn't want to do something that would help Republicans, that would help Trump. They didn't want to do that, even if it's the truth. They didn't want to report on it. That hasn't changed. It's not that all of a sudden, pre-debate Thursday, they were like, oh, we're basically activists for the Democratic Party. But post-debate, they're like, you know what? No, we're real journalists again. That's not what happened. They gaslit you about Biden's mental health. Now they're gaslighting you about not knowing. They knew. Jake Tapper knew. Yeah, I know Jake Tapper knew, and Anderson Cooper knew, and Rachel Maddow knew. You want to know how I know that they knew? Because I knew. And they have more access than me. Far more access. You even saw Van Jones saying, well, there's two sorts of conversations going on right now. There's the public Democrats conversation that's like, Joe Biden's fine, he's doing great. And then there's behind the scenes where they're all really worried. Even now, at this late moment, they're admitting to you, well, we're not just telling you the truth. That's not happening. We're putting a public face on. Oh my goodness, my wife bought a bounce house for my birthday. That's good stuff. Hopefully it's big enough for my fat behind to get on with my son. Thanks, wife. I appreciate it. So, binary or non-binary? Oh, it was on sale. Now I got bounce house on the brain. Yeah, so my wife comes in, totally derails my whole stream. Great metaphor for our marriage. I was going in the right direction, met her. Yeah, right. I was going right to an early grave drinking, so I wouldn't have met her. But that's what's going on with the media. And so you watch people like Wick and all of these lefties that are like, oh, well, it's outrageous. The media, they're reporting on this too much. They need to talk about Project 2025. They need to talk about Trump being a threat to a democracy. Right. What they're admitting is they fully expect the media to be totally on their side. For example, Wick put a post on X the other day and was like, they're not even acting as media people. They're acting as propagandists, trying to sabotage a candidate. Right, to help the Democrats. That's what they're doing. Do you think one of these people took a step back and go, for 8 years, they've basically came out as hard as possible, knives out against Donald Trump. Maybe that was a little unfair. Maybe that had an influence. One of the staffers, campaign managers or whatever for Biden, came out and said, the press reporting on cognitive decline issues of Biden was tantamount to election interference. What is Project 2025? I don't know. Ask any Democrat. They'll tell you. Trump disavowed it, but trust us. Trust us, that's Trump's secret plan. Just like it was a secret plan to end democracy in 2016. Just like it was a secret plan in 2020. We need to talk more about that. We need to fearmonger more about Trump's going to kill democracy. Kamala Harris gave a speech the other day. She said, Trump is promising to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his opponents. Really? My God, that'd be horrible. Can you imagine, say, I don't know, if the Department of Justice was going after Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg or whoever else that wanted to run in 2028? That would be terrible. Can you imagine going into a presidential election where Department of Justice and a special counsel and a bunch of DAs were criminally investigating one of the candidates? The opposition? Can you imagine that? Oh, wait. That's status quo. But that's okay. We don't have evidence that Biden himself said that. Says the same people that tell us it's okay that Biden's not running his administration. It's the people behind him. Right. That are locking up their opponents. That's what's going on. God forbid Trump do to us what we've done to him. But maybe they don't mean just his opponents. Maybe they mean regular, average, everyday people. Like, imagine if Trump wins and then, there's protests against Trump, which I'm all for free speech. By all means, have your protests against Trump. But imagine at one of those protests, there are people that start to clash with police. And then you are a person that just happens to be there, and then Trump's DOJ's starting the biggest manhunt in history to go after you. Oh, shit, that's what happened on January 6th. Okay, well, let's take riots out of it. What if you're just a run-of-the-mill person that's voicing your displeasure at right-wing direction of your school, and you show up to school board meeting? Right, Merrick Garland and the DOJ did that shit too, directed the FBI. What if you just you're worried about Roe v. Wade, and you really want to go out and protest outside Right to Life centers? Oh, right. Like the DOJ now is locking up for years and years pro-life people praying outside abortion clinics. Pepe Shadalay, what a great name, says, why are you answering questions nobody's asking? Well, they are asking the hypotheticals of what if Trump goes after his opponent. Now, I understand you didn't get that because you're a big brain. Ladies and gentlemen, we need an emoji for the big brain. Both sides do. Hey, man, listen, man, it's like both sides are bad, man. Both sides are bad. It's like you're just cattle and like you don't understand, man. It's like both sides. It's the way it is, man. There's no they, man. It's like there's no they. It's like you're cattle and you're trapped in the both sides did it, man. Like there's people and then there's me. I'm like so much smarter and above the fray, man. Like both sides do it. Hey, man, it sucks that this guy over here is nonviolent and he's getting arrested for January 6th and they're ruining this guy's life. This guy here killed himself because of shit. Hey, man, but why even bring it up, man? Like bad stuff happened to all kinds of people. Both sides doing it. Both sides do it, man. This guy loves paying 6% of his income tax, man. He loves it. I mean, granted, he sits here and argues against the policy implications, things that he doesn't like that Trump did. He's basically libertarian adjacent who wants to get rid of the vast majority of taxes. He basically outlined specifically how the corruption of the uniparty system causes that and how he's against this corruption and we need to fight against it. But clearly he wants a 60% tax because he doesn't understand that the bigger brain take is to just say, hey man, don't focus on the specifics, just say both sides do it. Hey man, both sides do it. Don't you know? That's how, don't you know when the founding fathers sat down, they were like, hey man, instead of writing like a Bill of Rights and like a Constitution, why don't we just say both sides do it and have a brewski? That's how fucking real intellectuals handle shit. Yeah, we get you, Pepe. Woo! Man, you should start a channel. 1,000 viewers instantly live, man. That shit's hot. Man, you're hitting those fucking real hard political deep thoughts. Awesome job, man. Woo! Fantastic. By the way, I love these people, these ideological Puritans, right? Absolute Puritan This is the same fucking dude that'll probably tell you, like, hey man, like, oh, I'm in fucking evil corporations too, man, like YouTube, as he's watching YouTube. We got you. I do need a cane. My back was killing me today. Anyways, thanks for watching, Pepe. Appreciate you bringing up my viewership. Sure, I'm sure you don't pay taxes, never have, never will. I'm calling bullshit. I think you're full of fucking shit. That's what I'm thinking. Never paid sales tax, huh? Great job. Awesome. Let me guess. You're completely off the grid. You built your own. I've debated this several times. You built your own solar panels. You built your own internet. You built your own computer. You didn't pay sales tax for any of that stuff. You're self-employed, probably multi-millionaire. All of your money's in Bitcoin. We know. And you're watching me on a Saturday night. Wow, man. You got to figure it out. Cool. Hey, Pepe, thanks so much for your time. Boop. Enjoy it. Anyways, yeah, regular Al Capone. I've never paid taxes. My parents. I mean, maybe it's true. Maybe he lives in like some country that doesn't have sales tax. But not interested in bullshitters. Pyramids in Alaska. What? Anywho, did I hear about the threat at the Capitol building in Harrisburg? I did not. Been working most of the day. Pyramids, quite the interesting phenomenon, huh? So here we are. So we're likely to see, I think we're more likely than not, though it's certainly not a certitude, to see a shift to someone else. Kamala Harris seems most likely at this point. Kamala Harris has to be amongst, other than Jill Biden, who's more culpable in covering up Joe Biden's mental health than Kamala Harris? Yeah, I said other than Jill Biden. Yeah. Why would we elect someone who intentionally lied to it? And that's, again, I can't stress this enough. Everything. I will be in a debate about Trump versus Biden coming up, and someone's going to ask me about Project 2025, right? And they're going to ask me about alternate electors, right? And they're going to ask me about January 6th, right? I want you to know, probably I'll respond to some of that, but I hope I say what I'm about to say, and this is what the first thing that should come into your mind is, the person that's asking me that question gaslit you for years about Joe Biden's mental health. What do you think the chances are they're doing it again about January 6th? It's a threat to democracy. And it just so happens, I saw Destiny say, the people that aren't talking about this court case, how much did Destiny talk about when the FBI was illegally spying on Trump's team? How much time did Destiny spend on that? This ruling means, hypothetically, Trump could do something shitty. But when Obama's FBI, and then transitioned into the FBI under Trump, when they were actually doing something illegal against Trump, well, it was not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. But you're un-American if you don't agree with them on this court case. You're un-American. Yep, and they're very good at sticking to a message. They even admitted it. That, like, all of them. You need messaging. You need to just hammer home this messaging. Right. Biden doesn't have cognitive decline. It's Trump that has cognitive. Remember that? Remember that was the line of attack? Robert Hur said, basically, Biden broke the law with classified documents, read and showed classified documents to his ghostwriter, but he was an old man with a poor memory and would be sympathetic to a jury. And what was almost the universal response from Democrats, the punditry class? Trump, that's bullshit, and Trump's the one with mental decline. Then I was like, oh, cool, then I guess we can't charge Trump with crimes? No, that's different, Right. They say this shit all. And again, I can't even begin to tell you how bad the gaslighting's been. Like, it's just obvious with the Biden's cognitive ability. How about the summer of love? Like, just take Destiny himself. I debated Destiny while the George Floyd riots were going on. I have the audio. I could show you at some point. I said, I suspect that Democrat mayors and governors are allowing these riots to get out of control to blame Trump. Of course, he said, of course. Then he said, rioting and voting are two sides of the same coin. That's what he said. That's what he told me. That's what he said. I understand later he came out against the riots once he understood that it was politically a losing position. Right. Now, I didn't have to do that. I've called out all political violence consistently. Isn't that nice? When you're consistent, you don't have to worry about people finding clips of you saying the exact opposite of what you're saying now. Or how about this? When Destiny's initial take on January 6th was, look, if it was really people trying to overthrow the government, they clearly would have done more than what they did because they vastly outnumbered police. They were basically just a riot that got out of control and they milled about. That was his initial take, and now that's changed into it was an attempted overthrow of the government. Why? What happened? Why the discrepancy between those beliefs? What side of PA am I on? I am in Western PA. I'm about an hour and a half northeast of Pittsburgh. I work in home health care is my job. Pisco's another great example. He says January 6th was an insurrection. Okay, I've got him to admit that May 31st, 2020 was an insurrection. Was there calls from Pisco or anyone else to have this big congressional investigation into that insurrection that used lethal weapons in an attempt to break into the White House? No. Did they see if there was any communications between Democratic members of Congress? No. Did they see if there was any funding of those groups or if there was any groups? No. No investigations like that. No calls for investigation. Why? According to him, it's an insurrection. Well, we didn't really talk much about that insurrection, but January 6th, we need to be talking about this. Steelworker, cool. Yeah. Brianna Wu will not debate me in a one-on-one. Brianna Wu has messaged me several times to let me know that she has blackballed me from any panel that she'll be on because she felt that the last interaction we had, I was rude. So she doesn't look at her own actions and sees that I was just reciprocating her rudeness. Take it easy, Whack. No, we couldn't set it up. Now, remember, right after the debate, I went on Wick's panel, right? And he tried to gaslight people again, saying, I didn't downplay Biden's cognitive decline. No, apparently Lactoid said he was on a panel one time where Wick said, Biden is getting old, he's slowing down a little. You understand that's different. And I've had people point to, see, here was one article the New York Times had in 2020 that said, is Biden getting too old? That's different than saying he has significant cognitive decline. And in fact, many of those articles, it specifically said things like, he is getting old and slowing down, but it's not like he has mental problems like the Republicans are alluding to. Right. And they point to that to say, see, the Democrats covered it too much. Too much they covered it. Never mind, they were telling you a week before the debate, cheap fakes. Republicans are spreading cheap fakes. Remember that word? Just make up language, right? They're very good, though. And it's amazing to me. It is absolutely amazing to me how they invert reality. It's mind-blowing. Just go to X. You'll see account after account defending Biden, saying the mainstream media has always been pro-Trump and against Biden. What? What are you talking about? Or here's one I heard on that panel today. Brianna Wu said this. Republicans always stick together. See, we Democrats are moral because we have infighting. And what we'll actually fight. No, what happened was the exact opposite's the truth. Look at how many establishment Republicans came out against Donald Trump. Still many hate him. There are Republicans that would vote against things that Trump wanted all the time. But the Democrats vote in unison. Even people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, most of the time they're voting right there in unison with Joe Biden's agenda. The only thing that happened this time is half of the Democrats were like, oh shit, we think that this guy's hurting our chance to stop Donald Trump. And the other half are saying, no, we need to stick it out with him. That's it. But to live in the alternate reality where the Democrats they're never in agreement, not like those Republicans, it's just insane. Me seething? Is that what you're saying? I'm having a great week. One of the things you're learning this week too, so I might be wrong about things, but I'm not gaslighting you. Let's talk about something else here. This shouldn't be a difficult concept. So oftentimes what will happen is someone who's a talented rhetorician, I use the term loosely, could make things seem more difficult than what they are. And they could try to convince something of it's difficult for you to put into words if you're not practiced doing it. Exactly what the problem is. So, for example, they'll say, well, you say we gaslit about Biden's cognitive decline, but you gaslit about Trump's insurrection. Or they'll say, this is a lie, but that's a lie, so we're even. There are different types of lies. There's different types of gaslighting. And there's different, gaslighting has a specific definition. Gaslighting is when you know something isn't true, but intentionally lie to convince people that they don't see the truth. So, for example, I don't think Trump led an insurrection. Now, someone else could say, I think Trump did lead an insurrection. I don't think that the person saying that is necessarily gaslighting you, because there is a chance, even though I think they're wrong, that they really believe that that's an insurrection. I really believe that it wasn't an insurrection. That's different than seeing Joe Biden's debate performance Thursday and saying, I don't see evidence of cognitive decline. Do you understand the difference? Or me saying, I don't think the Supreme Court immunity decision gives a president immunity to assassinate their opponent. You might say you're wrong, but that's truly what I believe. But when you say, I don't see evidence of Biden's cognitive decline, or I never saw evidence prior to Thursday, that's gaslighting. That's you blatantly lying. Is this a Republican platform? I would say populist. Platforms, YouTube, my show, I would say is populist. I sort of despise the establishment Republicans as well. Yeah, get rid of the Department of Education, of course. Thank you, Maurice, and I have noticed that. Thank you. You're one of the only people that do subscribe to me on Rumble, and I really appreciate it, man. And I think that even though I don't have a lot of people that watch me on Rumble, it's important to be on there because inevitably I'll probably get kicked off YouTube and Twitch. But it's very much appreciated, Maurice. And again, I've used this example, like if I tell you that I'm 7'8" and 120 pounds, that's different than me saying I think I'm the best conservative debater on the debate sphere online. You might say, you're full of shit, Rob. Andrew Wilson's better than you. Lauren Southern's better than you. Actual Justice Warrior's better than you. You can have your opinions, but that's not me being blatantly lying like saying I'm 7'2". That's just a blatant lie. That's not a disagreement of opinion. It's a fucking lie. Everyone sees it. Thanks, Maurice. That's what they did. And I'll be honest with you, like, again, I talked about this on July 4th in my stream, my birthday stream. I don't have it in me to hate particularly the people that are, I use the word contemporary loosely. Wick's probably close to my contemporary in that, or Pisco, or, you know, because those are people that do similar things to me. They're on the left, but they have similar viewer counts as me. Maybe more, but you get what I'm saying. It's difficult to call someone like Destiny a contemporary because he's got tens of thousands of people watching. Now, we're both doing similar things, but he's clearly at another level than me. Not talent-wise or truth. Let me take that back. Not debate-wise. Not he's smarter or telling more truth. It's nothing like that. But he's reaching way more people, and I think he is more talented than me into that getting viewership and selling himself, certainly. But regardless, I'll use the term contemporary because I don't know what else to say. I don't really have it in me to hate people like that. Like, as outrageous as like Pisco's behavior, Pisco lately has been very unlikable, but I still have a soft spot. I do. That's why I'm so hard on. I think Wick's a very likable guy. I do. I know that there's tons of reasons for people to hate Destiny. He's never been anything but polite to me, like behind the scenes. I like Destiny. It's true. I don't really care for Brianna Wu. I'll be honest, but I don't hate her by any stretch. Don't wish ill. Same with like people like Hutch. You know, I don't know Hutch's. I don't really have an opinion on liking or disliking Hutch, but I certainly don't hate him. Like, I just don't hate these people, but I can't help but see that it's like, it's just their nakedly partisan bad faith when it comes to many of these issues. And it's blatant. It's just blatant. And it's hard, particularly in an election year like this, to overlook that. It really is. Yeah, thanks, just kidding. I appreciate it. That's a positive way to look at it. Yeah, I know. I need to do better. I was telling him, John, you were telling me how to work the algo better. I'm bad at that shit. Yeah, I'm sure Destiny does genuinely hate conservatives. And listen, I don't know what to say. I don't give a shit if they hate me. I still don't hate them. Right? I don't. I don't. Like, I don't like Vosh at all. I think he's fucking scummy. But I don't hate him. I'm not wishing ill on him. It's just true. And then there's people, and Vosh isn't even the worst. There's people that I've interacted with that I'm like, God. There's very few things, like people that are intentionally doing the worst things to children. That I could reserve hatred for. Murderers and things like that. But short of that sort of stuff, I don't need the bad karma. And that doesn't mean if you hate them, I'm saying you're wrong or anything. Teach their own. I don't care. I'm just telling you who I am. But it's very difficult to parse out, like, you know, I see someone that I think's a likable guy like Wick, and you know, I go on this panel with him right after the debate, and I give him shit. I'm like, you gaslit us. No, I didn't. I said old age, blah, 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 that one time. I'm like, oh, so one time you said he had old age and you couldn't even recall it, someone else had to? But the impression that you got, if you watch that, was, okay, Wick's admitting that there's a serious cognitive problem. Now go watch his stream since that night. And go watch his X feed. Completely different impression. Should we stop covering Biden's cognitive decline as much? Is it hurting him? Is it true? Should be your answer. Do you think for a second leading into the 2020 election that I said, geez, should I stop talking about Trump basically embracing lockdowns because it's hurting him? I said it was hurting him. And I still talked about it because it was true. Because you know it sucked? Watching my friends and family lose their small businesses or homes or not be able to visit their family. That fucking sucked. I didn't say, oh, I'll keep my mouth shut because I don't want to hurt Trump. That's right, just kidding. That's basically what their conversation. And they'll gaslight about the gaslighting. They have to double down now. No, his cognitive decline, we didn't see evidence previously, and it's not that serious. Think of the amount of people right now, and I'm not talking about the people on that panel, but think of the amount of people like in the media business or in the politics business that are Democrats that are basically saying Biden needs to go, but he's only bad enough that he can't challenge Trump, but he can still be president until the next Democrat's sworn in. If you don't think the guy's fit, then he shouldn't be president now. Now, I watched these people in the media call for the 25th Amendment for Trump over and over and over again. Remember when Trump's doctor came out and was like, hey, he's pretty fit. I did this cognitive test with him and blah, 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 blah. And they all said, bullshit, this doctor's a liar. He's a liar. Trump's not mentally fit. Now we see Biden. And by the way, they still are trying to gaslight you that somehow Trump's comparable now to Biden. It's not even close. I did hear about Thomas Massey's wife. That's terrible. I think he's probably the best representative, and it's horrible. I would say the same if Chuck Schumer's wife passed. Like, you feel terrible watching someone's spouse die, even if it's someone that you don't like politically or you don't like at all. That's a horrible thing. And for someone like Thomas Massey, who I think is a great patriot that's fighting to take this country in the right direction, to see his wife pass like that, it's horrible. And I hope he knows that people's prayers are with him to get through. It's very difficult. But yeah. And that's, I had someone tell me the other day, well, Destiny's audience kind of likes you. And Destiny, they ain't going to like me the next time I talk to Destiny. And by the way, I messaged him. He hasn't reached back. Now, I'm sure he's busy, but it is what it is. They ain't going to like what I have to say because I'm not going to pull punches. I'm going to say, fuck you. You know that the media's constantly lied. You know that you've probably... I'm willing to have my mind changed. Destiny could say, no. Here was me in the past talking about Biden's cognitive decline. Because I think that you could be in a position where you're not a gaslighter or a liar that said this. Look, yeah, you're right. Biden has significant cognitive decline, but I still prefer him to Trump. I think that's a dumb take, but fair enough. That doesn't make you a bullshitter or a liar. It's just a disagreement. Okay. But if you're claiming that you follow politics seriously and you didn't know until the debate Thursday, you're either really bad at following politics, which is bullshit, or you were okay gaslighting people, which is what it was with 95% of the people. And now the media is trying to be like, oh, we were duped. Really? You were duped. That's what happened. Then surely there'll be a bunch of stories getting to the bottom of everyone connected to Biden, maybe even Kamala Harris, that duped you, right? What do you think the chances of that are? Remember how Adam Schiff repeatedly went on like Jake Tapper's show and lied about seeing proof of Trump personally colluding with Russians? Remember that? He kept going on shows like Jake Tapper's, and then it turned out it was all bullshit. I don't recall Jake Tapper ever saying, we're going to do a piece on why Adam Schiff just blatantly lied to us like this, made us look like fools. Nope, they just moved on to the next topic. No, Boy never forwarded me any tweets about him talking about Biden's cognitive decline. Someone did message me and say that he was on a panel with Destiny and Pisco and maybe Pondering and brought up my conversation with him, but I didn't see it. But they know I'm going to bring it up and throw it right in their fucking face. They all know it. That's why they don't want to talk to me, which is fine. Just like the Her report. No one wanted to talk about the fucking Her report when it came out, right? What did I tell you they'd do? They'd let it go, not talk about it for 3-4 months, and then they'd bring it up like a random blip. I've forgotten more shit of the evidence of the double standard and corruption than I've talked about. It's like sometimes I'll go back and I'll look and I'll be like, oh shit, I forgot about that. Like, remember there a couple months ago when Michael Schellenberger was reporting that they had evidence that Barack Obama was asking foreign intel agencies to look into Donald Trump in 2016? Nothing happens, we move on. Then the next time I'm debating it, I forget that that happened. It's so frustrating. It's like, all these people, all of a sudden they're concerned about political. What if Trump, it's DOJ? But, I mean, it's a fucking joke. It really is. But I'll keep streaming. People can get tired of me talking about it. But what about the job numbers, Rob? Job numbers. I mean, even the job numbers come out, right? So the job numbers come out the other day. And again, the first person I ever heard say this was Scott Adams. He's like, it's like we're looking at two movies. We're watching one movie and the Democrats are watching another. Because the Democrats are like, wow, look at these job numbers. They're awesome. Woo! And then you're like, yeah, they revised the past 2 months down 111,000. That's terrible. Below expectations. And it's something like 8 out of the last 10 months they've revised that were initially beat expectations and then revised below expectations. Once people aren't watching, once the news cycle, then you delve deeper into the job numbers. We actually lost we gained basically I'm going to screw these numbers up. We lost 160,000 full-time jobs, but gained 180,000 part-time. So basically what's happening is we're becoming an economy where increasingly people are relying on multiple part-time jobs. So we're losing the good full-time job and getting sort of the gig jobs. Then it was something like 70-something% of the jobs were either government jobs or healthcare jobs that were paid through government funding. In other words, it turns out when you spend trillions of dollars to give money to the government, then the government could pay people to do phony baloney jobs. Wow, we created jobs, but it's not sustainable. Unemployment's up to 4.1% using the official numbers, which of course doesn't take into account people that have left the workforce. Oh, inflation's crazy. I've talked about that from day one. What they would do is inflation would hit if we use their metrics. But here was something I saw. I'm going to fudge these numbers up. I obviously am not in the computer, so I can't look at them. But it's something like this. It was like on-site construction jobs are up 0.1% over the month, and yet sales are down 30%. Think about that. So on-site construction, home construction, 30% decline, but jobs are up 0.1% in the sector. How does that make sense? Now, it's possible, but do you believe that? No, I'm not a liberal. I am a populist, libertarian-leaning conservative. But they keep telling you. I mean, seriously, the same experts that told you the border was secure for 3 years, that then all of a sudden in election year was like, our bad, it's actually a mess, but it's Trump's fault. 2021, Biden says, border's great. 2022, border's great. 2023, border's great. 2024, there's a border crisis, it's Trump's fault. Past 3 years, there wasn't a crisis, but now there's a crisis, it's Trump's fault. Let's do something about it. Thanks, CJ Johnson. Yeah, and then there's pretty much all the job growth we've seen have gone to foreign-born workers. And it's funny, when you bring this statistic up, they say, well, that's because the baby boomers are retiring. Okay, let's say that's true. That still means that they're being replaced in the job market, not by people born in this country, but by people born outside of this country. So what are all the people that were born in this country that didn't have jobs doing? And again, I've been saying this for years. The argument, when you listen to the Democrats, they're like, well, the problem is the media is not reporting the good economy hard enough. But the problem is, when you make arguments like this, even people that vote Democrat are struggling. Wage growth isn't going up compared to inflation. Real wage growth is down for the majority of the Biden administration. And when you think because GDP goes up on a natural cycle, wage growth, real wages should always be increasing somewhat unless you're entering recessions, depressions, abnormal events. And the fact that we're basically stagnant or decreasing, people feel that. I actually, in my debate with Noah Smith, it didn't come up. I expected him to talk about the economy. He's an economist. I thought he would talk about the economy a lot. We didn't spend much time on it, maybe 20 minutes. But I had all the official numbers, and I don't believe most of the official numbers, but even the picture they paint isn't good. But I actually, my wife and me, in preparation for that debate, we went through certain products that we buy and have bought for years at the same grocery store to see the percentage increase. So, for example, things like dog food, gallon of milk, like box of cornflakes, stuff like that, stuff that we've kind of always have purchased from 2020. Now, there's a lot of different stuff because we didn't have a son, we didn't have a kid until 2021. So, diapers and formula, stuff like that's obviously a completely different expense. But those products that we purchased, and it was about from the time the last bill we had when Trump was in office until the most recent one, averaged a 23% increase. Now, I understand that's anecdotal, that's just us, but that's about in line with what the inflation numbers are suggesting. 23% increase. Do you think my wages went up 23%? No. Then when you factor in that I had a kid, which cost money, my disposable income's gone down significantly. Now, you could say, well, that's your fault for having a kid. Trust me, it was worth it. It's the best thing that we ever did. But nonetheless, you see the point I'm making. A lot of people were financially deciding not to have children. But they just gaslight you. The same people that told you, no, I don't see evidence of Biden's cognitive decline. And again, the tacit admission that they have is they just act like, well, why isn't the media doing a better job for us? Right, because that's what they expect. That's the normal course of things. And it's funny when you listen to like Desi and them, what they're saying on this panel today, they're like, if it was just about records, Trump's record versus Biden's record, Biden's pulling him out of the water. It's not true at all. Based on what metric? Now, granted, if you look at specifically during the height of COVID under Trump, yeah, a lot of things look really bad. And yes, I'm absolutely open to blaming Trump for a lot of that. Except I blame him in the opposite way that Democrats do. Democrats are like, he should have locked down more. Right, which would have crushed the economy even more. Yeah, I recommend that first, David. Find a way. But you can't gaslight people. You could lie to people. You could gaslight things that people don't give a shit about. You could gaslight them about. Democracy under threat. But when people can't afford their bills, when they can't afford groceries, when they can't afford to put gas in their car, that's tough to lie to people. And when you're out there saying, no, the economy is great, and those people are like, but I'm struggling. That's why, to me, the election, and I've said this, the election is about, you got a bunch of Trump supporters that are going to vote for Trump, Republicans, conservatives, whatever, groups that are going to vote for Trump. You got a bunch of Trump haters and Democrats that are going to vote against Trump, vote for whoever the Democrat candidate is. But the battle's for those people in the middle. And who are those people? In general, I think those people are people that think, listen, I think that the world was more stable under Trump. I think the country was more stable. The border was more secure. The economy was overall better. Despite what the numbers say, that's how people feel. But they think Trump's an asshole. They don't personally like him. They're afraid he'll do something unhinged. How else could you explain, even before the debate, how the race was allegedly as tight as it was? Do you think that there's a bunch of moderates and independents that find Trump more likable than Biden? Of course not. So what's the decision? If the Democrats are right and all of the issues are clearly on the issues, Biden's clearly winning on border security, on foreign policy, on the economy. Biden's clearly crushing it. Then why isn't he running away with the race before they found out that he had cognitive decline? Because the truth is the American people don't feel that way. And the Democrats' answer to this is that it's up to the media to convince them. I don't think I'm crazy. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. Both are too old. Sure. And that's like saying, again, I'll go back to this example. Two baseball players, one's batting under 200. You say, that's bad. The other gets into the batter's box every time, curls into the fetal position, and shits his pants until the umpire calls him out and then forces security to remove them. And you say, well, they're both too bad to be in my team. True, maybe both too bad to be in your team, but one's bad in a far, far worse way. It's not even debatable. So yeah, can you say, well, my preference is that Trump's too old as well. Right, and him being too old is a completely different ballgame than what's going on with Joe Biden. Yeah, I hear you, Robert. Living paycheck to paycheck was better than living paycheck to midweek. So no, the issues, and again, if the issues were so important, then why is the recommendation, when you hear Democrats talk, do they say, Trump's a convicted sexual assaulter, he's been found guilty of sexual assault, Trump's a 34-time felon, Trump's attacking democracy. If they're winning so good in the issues, why don't they just say that? Look, the economy's so blatantly better under Joe Biden than it was under Trump. Foreign policy-wise, things are so much better under Biden than they were under Trump. Why aren't they running on that? But when you hear these Democrats talk, they're like, clearly on the issues. Bullshit. That's why they're hinging. The reason they're so unhinged about the Supreme Court decision is because one of their key lines of attack against Trump is to use lawfare. That's the plan. Because they're not confident that they could beat Trump on the issues. So they have to say he's a threat to democracy. Again, when they say democracy, you think when they say democracy, everyone having a voice, the will of the people. That's not what they mean by democracy. If that's what they meant, they wouldn't have gaslit you about Biden's cognitive decline. They would have said, put all the chips on the table and let the people vote how they may. They wouldn't have tried to keep Trump off the ballot in Colorado. They wouldn't be relying on lawfare. If it was about democracy, there wouldn't be a bunch of people right now in the Democratic Party trying to force Biden out. If it was about democracy, Democratic voters voted for Biden. They don't give a shit about democracy. By democracy, what they mean is their will. What they want. That's democracy. You voting for Trump is anti-democratic. Why? Because that's not what they want. You understand that Schadenfreude, the best thing that could happen in this election, is for Trump to win 3 swing states by 40,000 votes and Democrats to go absolutely apeshit saying that the election was stolen from them. And to have people calling for alternate electors. And I'll guarantee you that all the people that are talking about how this is a threat to democracy would say, hey, Trump did it, that's okay, it's okay to do it, it's okay. No, these challenges were legitimate. And it was Trump-appointed justices on the Supreme Court that wouldn't hear the cases. It's their fault. This is cheating. That's what they'll say. You know it. You absolutely know it. I'll tell you right now, if Joe Biden pushes for alternate electors, I'll be a little pissed by it. But I'll say this is a legal challenge. I don't think that Biden should go to prison for this. I don't think there should be criminal investigation to the people that sign up to be alternate electors. If Kamala Harris, unlike Pence, accepted it, I would say this is horseshit. But I don't think there should be a criminal investigation into her. Here we go. Dogs and God says, keep coping. How am I coping? Again, this is how bad the gaslighters are. The same people that have been screaming and yelling at the sky since Thursday's debate are the ones saying that I'm coping. I feel like I'm having a great fucking week. Not just with politics either, though I can't deny it's been funny. But my life's going in a pretty good direction. I had my 40th birthday, got to hang out with family, took a week off work. It's fucking beautiful, great. So I don't feel like I'm coping. I feel like I'm doing all right. I did read the decisions, particularly the immunity decision. I did read it. And no, I don't think it's as bad as what you're being gaslit to believe by a bunch of people that are giving you one side of the story. You see, dogs are God. Admits the game. I'm coping because I'm saying that if Trump wins and Republicans win, and Democrats say, no, they cheated in several states, we want the Supreme Court to hear it, and the Supreme Court says no, the Democrats will say, this is bullshit, it's a Trump court, it's not fair, they're stealing the election. That's what they'll say. After they just told you, we have to trust the court with the 2020 election. And he says, I'm coping because, quote, it's okay, the courts will decide after the courts just decided against your political identity. I have no fucking clue what that sentence even means. The reason the courts are in this position in the first place is because the Democrats decided that they were going to weaponize the justice system like never before to go after Donald Trump since 2016. So the courts, unfortunately, had to end up weighing in because they see this weaponization and understand where this would go. And because Democrats like Sotomayor and parroting her are saying, this means that the Supreme Court could assassinate their opponents, which is bullshit. It is not what it means. But because they want to make this absurd hypothetical that would never come about anyways, they've gaslit themselves into believing that this is somehow some coup by a bunch of treasonous judges, and we need to pack the court, and we need to remove these judges, etc., etc., etc. Again, if you want to understand this court decision, all of the people that are telling you that this basically gives the president complete immunity, all you have to do is this. If Jack Smith continues and says, actually, now we're going to go to court and we're going to argue why Trump doesn't have specific immunity using the Supreme Court's language, that these aren't core presidential powers, and these fall within that gray area of official and unofficial actions, and we think most of these are unofficial. If it's true that this was complete immunity, as you're being gaslit to believe by Democrats, then surely they'll be out there saying, Jack Smith is completely wrong, it's time to drop the case. We might disagree with the court's decision, but clearly the Supreme Court says that these actions by Trump had immunity. And of course, I've already seen that they say, no, that's not what we'll say. We'll say the way Trump did it was stupid, but he could have done it and had complete immunity. So already they'll backtrack. I am having a great night, Kraft Punk. Kraftwerk fan? We are the robots. Boop, 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 boop. There's a throwback. I don't know how many Kraftwerk fans we have in the audience. I believe Kraftwerk is the band that the Nihilists were modeled after in The Big Lebowski. KMFDM, yeah. Because they're called Autobahn, which I believe was the name of one of Kraftwerk's albums. What's up, Punished? Supreme Court language was so vague that the person who decides what is presidential authority will be the president. We'll see. Disagreed? If that's the case, will you agree then dogs are gods? Would you agree with this? If that's what the court's decision was, then Jack Smith would be blatantly violating the Supreme Court if he decides to challenge Trump. to continue to charge Trump. Would you agree with that, dogs or gods? Did your Brooklyn comment show up? I don't know, man. I don't see him. Oh, Eric Andre skipped. Okay. What do you think, dogs or gods? Will you agree with that? When Jack Smith pushes his case, you'll say, outrageous. The president gets to decide what's immune and not. That's what you'll say, right? By the way, how come the same people that are complaining about this giving the president too much authority, why don't they have a problem with Eric Garland saying that it's executive privilege to not hand over the audio tapes of her interview when we've basically already seen the transcript? I didn't see it, conservative carnage. Biden voter here. What's going on tonight? Nothing. We're making fun of you Biden voters. Democracy! Listen, let me throw a bone to all you Biden voters here. I'm not saying that Biden's going to win the election, because they'll probably remove him. But I think the Democrats still have like a 90%, whoever they push will have a 90% chance of winning the presidency. So don't freak out. You'll have your chance to come here and pour salt in my wound, be like, oh, and I'll say, yeah, I'm used to it. I always fucking lose. So that's no big deal. You could do it, and I'll say, I didn't get your licks in. It's okay. Let me tell you why I suck and could have done better. It's what I've done every election except 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022. That's probably what I'll be doing in 2024. It's okay. You guys can pour salt in the wound. No hard feelings. So don't feel too bad. That's the difference. The Democrats are so used to winning. More importantly than Democrats, like the pro-establishment people are so used to winning that, like, when they have a bad day or a bad week, holy cow, they get so they lose their heads. Like, even the 2016 election, they lost their minds. And what did Trump really do? Nothing. He's gonna lock up all the gay people. Blah blah blah. None of it really happened. It's like, oh, historic low black unemployment. Trump's signing executive orders like that are giving a bunch of these like black prison advocacy, like prison reform shit that they couldn't even get under Obama. He's pardoning rappers and shit. It's like, okay, what was the big fear here? And the only, well, not the only, but it's policy-wise, I do agree that Trump's handling of COVID was dismal. But Biden's was worse, and the Democrats, even during Trump, were worse. It was dismal because he should have basically understood that the way to fight this was to help the most vulnerable people, like immune-compromised people and the elderly, and to allow the virus to run its course through the young, healthy, working-age population. That was the answer. But other than that, prior to that, remember when it was moving the embassy to Jerusalem? Oh my God, it's going to light the Middle East on fire. Pretty much nothing. Some attacks, but nothing serious. And compare that to Biden. Oh, but Trump's a puppet of Putin. When Trump gets in there, Putin's going to be so aggressive and he's going to attack the world. Nothing. Biden gets in, Putin invades Ukraine. Oh, but China won't respect Trump. They're more aggressive than ever under Biden. Hardly did anything under Trump. What was it? But this time it'll be different. This time he's going to do everything that we thought he would do the first time but didn't. But this time he'll do it. Half the shit that they're warning you he would do, I wish he would do. He'll get rid of 75 to 80% of the federal workforce. And all these agencies like the EPA, the Department of Education. Great! I wish he would. That'd be a good start. Wow, your daughter loves my videos? Great. Tell her I said hi. All right, let's go through them one by one. Abortion, okay. He appointed conservative justices that overturned Roe v. Wade, which should have happened, which probably resulted in Democratic wins legislatively. Abortion should have been something that was always enshrined in law as far as the legislative branch, not that something that should have been created by the judiciary. I'm from the perspective of someone who wants to see abortion severely curtailed, so I think that was good. But sure, I could see the Democrats disliking that. However, that's not out of the norm of, name me the Republican candidate do you think would have appointed justices that wouldn't have overturned abortion? Because the threats on Trump seem to be that he was uniquely bad. So if you're going to say abortion because Roe v. Wade got overturned, same with far-right Supreme Court justices. Again, which justice? Amy Coney Barrett? Roberts? No. I'm sorry, Roberts. Roberts was there. Kavanaugh? Not super far right. Hard stance on immigration? Good. See, absolutely. Wish there's more. Still did a pretty piss poor job, all things considered. Tax cut for billionaires? Sure, there were tax cuts for billionaires. And the tax cuts also benefited poor and working class people as well. Yep, almost everyone was paying less in taxes. How'd that work out? Are people that are living paycheck to paycheck better under Joe Biden? I don't think so, because all the groceries, because when inflation hits for like the goods that you need, like electricity and gasoline and food, that always disproportionately affects the poorest Americans because they're using a higher percentage of their income for those necessities. So if those necessities, if you're spending 80% of your income on necessities and those necessities increase in price 30%, that hurts you more than if you're a billionaire and you're only spending 0.01% of your income on necessities and they increase 30%. What's my favorite sport? It's a difficult question. Probably my favorite sport to watch live is probably hockey. I enjoy the baseball season more than any other, though. Deficit skyrocketed during those tax cuts. Well, the deficit, I will admit that the deficit didn't skyrocket because of the tax cuts. The deficit skyrocketed because of the spending. That's what happened. I'm for letting people keep more of their money. But you're right, deficit went on under Trump. It was going up about the same rate that it was going up most other presidents until COVID, to which the reason the deficit went so high under COVID was because Trump signed shit that Democrats wanted and wanted even more of to spend shitloads of money because they also wanted to lock down the economy. Biden's spending at a very similar clip to Trump, except the height of COVID. Inflation increased because we increased the M2 money supply by 50%, some of which happened under Trump, some of which happened under Biden. But yeah, that's the problem. It wasn't the tax cuts. Cut spending. Stop sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Why do we even have taxes? Democrats don't seem to give a shit. They're just like, print more money. So let's just print more. Why have taxes? Inflation's no big deal. Tax cuts did result in higher revenue. So actually it is true that the money, because what people like Mike are having you believe is this. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but say that, we were bringing in $1 trillion of tax revenue under Obama. Then Trump passed tax cuts, and then we're only bringing in $800 billion. That's not what happened. We were actually bringing in historic revenue with the tax cuts. So the tax cuts resulted in more revenue being brought in. That's what happened. Yes or no? Is that true or not true? You tell me, Mike. So what year was tax cuts passed? What was the revenue that the government brought in the year prior? And what was the revenue the government brought in the year after? Perhaps I'm misinformed. Go ahead, Mike. I'm on my phone, so I can't look it up. Go ahead. It's not true. Okay. I'm willing to, let's see. I have a work computer here. That might be something I could look up here. Let me take a look, see. So So Mike's saying that's definitively not true. We'll see. Could be wrong. No, Mike's making an argument. We'll see if it's true. He might be right. No, don't long term. I said something very specific. I said something very specific about revenue that was brought in. You said that's not true. Okay. Now it seems that you're changing. So what year were Trump's tax cut? $2018 was Trump's tax cut. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was 18 or 19. Okay. Tax revenue by year. Now, you said it was a lie. I was told that it was a lie. That once I said, I think that revenues went up from taxes. That's what I was told. Oh, you said that was a lie. Now Mike's changing his position. So 2017, 3.3 billion. 2018, 3.3, I'm sorry, 2017, 3.32 trillion. 2018, about the same, 3.33 trillion. Then we saw the first year there would have been in effect 3.46 trillion, 3.42 trillion. Huh. Wow, that's crazy. It's almost like what I said was true and what you said was bullshit. Huh. That's weird. Saying Lawfare curve doesn't help anything without explaining it. But I think I just looked it up here. I understand what you're saying, though, I think, right? And it is basically the argument that I'm making and that Trump's team's made, which was if you cut taxes, you encourage more business growth, higher GDP. So even if, like, say that there is a average tax rate of 10% on everyone, but it caused the GDP to be 1 trillion, and then you lower that tax rate to 8%, and that causes the GDP to be 2 trillion, you still bring in more in taxes. Right, and that's what Brian the Uncle's saying. Yes, that's right. That's explaining the Laffer curve. I've never heard that term, but that's... So then the tax cuts resulted in more money of the pocket of the poor and working class, and it ended up in slightly more revenue being brought in. But just because, and this is true, a lot of times when you hear this, right? But it benefited billionaires more. Well, I would guess that any tax cut would benefit the wealthiest more. Does anyone know why? Does anyone know why, if you had a completely even tax cut, if you said we're going to cut everyone's taxes by half a percentage point, why would that result in more money for billionaires? Does anyone know why? Why would that be? Why, if you had equal tax cuts, well, it's not that they have more money. That's close. That's not the answer. No, that's right. Because billionaires pay way more in taxes. So, for example, there's a certain portion of the population that doesn't pay anything in taxes. So is tax cuts going to help those people? Probably not. They weren't paying in taxes in the first place. If you only pay $100 a year in taxes in your income tax and you get a break and that goes down to 80, you might say, big deal, I saved 20 bucks. But that same break, 20% break to a billionaire is going to seem like a huge amount of money. Explain to me the principle of why large tax cuts for billionaires see the negative effects to the poor and working class. In order to prove that, you would have to prove that it grew the deficit, which caused inflation. That's what you would have to prove. But in order to prove that it grew the deficit, you would have to argue that it resulted in less revenue, which it didn't. Yeah, capital gains is different. You're absolutely right. Right, Bandit. That's exactly right. Oh, thanks, John Kell. Just getting done with the 14-hour shift, showing support to Rob. Thank you, man. Yeah, 14 hours, no joke, man. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you. It's the money printing that caused inflation. And again, there's an argument to be had that Trump spent record deficits. But the implication seems to be the tax cuts caused the deficit. I don't see it that way. I don't see evidence of that. Doing good. Unfortunately, going to be heading out here soon. Look at this bald head. Oh my God. Six days a week tomorrow is church day. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'll be working tomorrow, so I don't even go to church. But it should be a good work day for me, so no complaints. So anyways, that's the show for today. Anything specific anyone wanted to talk about? Greetings from Venezuela. Hope all's going well. I wonder how many lefties came in because of my title of my video. Democracy! Look, when people say shit like that to you, they're just fear-mongering you. Thank you, Nicholas Clinton. $5. Just showing support. Thank you, man. How about how much money do they estimate in PPP loans was fraudulent? Like 200 billion or some shit? What faith do I belong to, if you don't mind asking? It's a good question. I'm Christian, but a bad one. But I would say non-denominational. I don't go to church, though. I'm going to start going to Catholic church because my son's going to be going to a Catholic school. So we are going to start attending Catholic church. My wife was raised Catholic. I'll be honest, the church I was raised in, we didn't even have a preacher. We did for some point, but then that church eventually, what it was just community members that wanted to try to teach a Bible lesson would come. So it was sort of a non-denominational church. I hate ranch dressing, so I wouldn't chug it, and I'm not interested in chugging anything on stream for money, but thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, Ronald. So, yeah, Andrew Wilson's talked to me about Orthodox, and I would be interested in attending an Orthodox church, though I don't know where there would be one near me. And my problem is I work almost every Sunday, so it's very difficult to attend Sunday church for me because my job's home health care, and it's the type of job where, unless I'm working with a client that wants to go to church, it's difficult to get out there. So, democracy, yeah. Yeah, it's just code word. It's just people say that shit to fearmonger and our opponents against democracy. You know what I think? You know what's ironic? You know what I think's against democracy? A bunch of unelected bureaucrats that really run the country, which is exactly what they're admitting Joe Biden is. Well, he's not running things. It's a joke. So, all right. Thanks so much. I don't know if I'll be streaming until Wednesday, but I will try Wednesday when I get back home. But not sure. But no, I thank all of you. I really do appreciate you all coming on. Thanks to the people that financially donated. Thanks to the people that chatted, even those that disagree. Thanks to the people that support me. I really appreciate it. I wish I could do better for you all. I wish I could do the streaming stuff more full time, but I have a full time job, and I'm busy a lot. But put in 100 minutes. That's not bad, right? So everybody have a great time. Listen. If you're on the right or the center or whatever, never forget that they'll gaslight the shit out of you about the most blatant of things. So when you hear them screaming about democracy or tax cuts or the economy or border security or climate change, they'll gaslight you about all of it. The truth doesn't factor in to what they're saying. They believe that they're smarter than you. They believe they're more moral than you. It's their legacy to have power. They're better people than you, and if that means lying to you, so be it. They don't give a shit. It doesn't mean they'll never tell the truth. It's just the truth doesn't factor in. If they think it would be better to lie to you, then they'll lie to you. You could say that I'm an idiot. You could say that I'm wrong, but I'm telling you what I honestly believe. That's all I could do. I'm not sitting here lying. You're not going to see me being like, Mitch McConnell, I don't see any signs of cognitive decline. Where? All the right-wing violence is okay. It's the left-wing. You don't see me doing that shit. If you're a Biden supporter or someone on the left or some Trump hater or whatever, two things. One, you're probably still going to win in the long haul, so don't get too depressed. The other thing is this. If there's one thing you could take from someone like me, understand that there has only been one national election in my lifetime that the person I supported won, and that was 2016 when Trump won. So I know what it feels like to think that we're losing important political elections that will harm the country in significant ways. That's been the story of me since I've become politically active, except one election. Right? It'll be all right. There are things that are more important. Don't freak out. Trump's not going to lock you all up. In fact, quite to the contrary, the very establishment that you cheer for will make sure that Trump doesn't go after his opponents. Now, truth be told, may each of us get exactly what we've wished on our opponents. That's what we all deserve. I haven't called for the doxing of anyone. I haven't called for the censorship of anyone. I haven't called for the arbitrary locking up of opponents because they made memes about when to vote. I haven't called for the locking up of presidents for things I think were shit. I've called for the reining in of the FBI. But when I see people on the left that are so-called lawyers that are cheering for everyone who's been locked up on January 6th deserved it all. They all deserved it. And I'm glad. There was nothing wrong with sending the FBI to look at parents at school board meetings. Hopefully you never find yourself on the opposite end of that. I saw Dave Smith said the other day, Piers Morgan was going on about how the government has the right to censor people online. I think it was Dave Smith was like, all it would take would be for him to be booted off of all platforms for 3 weeks to get him to change his mind. Then he would be like, well, not me. What did I do? Right. What do you believe to winner, Biden or Trump? I think Biden will win. I think there's a really good chance Biden will win. Because I think the polls will eventually bounce back, and I think ballot harvesting, scandals that'll come out against Trump, etc., will be enough to tilt the election to Biden again. But it'll be close, but Biden will win. That's my prediction. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you all soon. I hope you have a great evening, even if you're a dirty, dirty Biden supporter. It's all right. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. As always, who do I support? Trump. Well, I supported Vivek as my first choice, and DeSantis is my second choice, but Trump was my third choice. So, but yeah, Trump. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. As always, have a good one.